Hi and welcome back to another art journal video, and today I'm going to play with the Gear Up for Christmas collection. Now this is a collection that I have been using during June or July when it came out, and I did share many projects, but I want to show you that you can actually use it since there are many elements that are not just for Christmas. So for today I'm going with a bunch of houses, and I absolutely love the vibe on this collection just because you get kind of a steampunk look without being too steampunk and dark. Anyway, I will be using those houses as my focal point, and I will start just like always on this little journal by using rice paper as my background. If you haven't seen the first video of this series of square pages, make sure to do so. I will leave the links down below. This is where I explain the steps that I will be following for each and every one of those pages in that journal. So I'm picking a couple of rice papers here, which I will combine. Also, just to make it easy on you guys, I did create a playlist here on YouTube where I added all the pages that I have created on this journal up to now, so it is easy for you to go back and check them out. Now, for every one of those pages, I'm using rice paper as a start point for my background. Sometimes I tear it off with my fingers or with water, other times I cut it out with scissors in very thin strips. Today I decided to use only 3 big chunks of rice paper, so just to make my life easy and quick, I will just stick those 3 down. As always, I'm using rice paper glue to stick everything down, and I know that I am repeating myself, but after all, that's the steps that I am going to use for all of those pages. So again, I am applying with a big brush my rice paper glue first, then I will apply the rice paper on top and cover it up to seal it with that glue as well. Now notice that the rice paper, although it looks delicate, it's not actually like napkin. It's not going to dissolve if you add too much water or too much a lot of wet medium, like this glue for example. And also it is quite forgiving, so you see, if I don't like the way I put it down, I can always lift it and reposition. This is going to help as well. The repositioning fact is going to help you with wrinkles if you don't want to have those. But I have yet to share a video where I use the rice paper with lots of wrinkles, which is a great technique because it's going to give you lots of texture on your background. Anyway, into my to-do list. So I have stuck down all those rice papers. I'm making sure that I have covered up everything with rice paper glue, and I will use my heat gun to make sure that everything is nice and dry before I move on to the next step. And the next step in my method is to use white. It can be a white wash at the back, it can be some brush strokes. Here I'm using a spatula to add some white areas, and actually I didn't use bright white. This is ivory, to tell you the truth. And I think it matches the background even more than just using white there. I will use white splatters at the end, just like always though. Step number 3 is to do some stamping on the background. I am debating whether I want to use the text stamp or that one, which is quite complicated. I decided to go with the text stamp, but keep in mind that these are stamps that I design with every one of my collections, which are made for backgrounds. So you need to move fast because they usually are very popular. And I make sure that when I design them, they are very, very versatile, giving you lots of elements there that you can mix and match. And they are timeless. You can use them throughout the years, and you can use them for pretty much any themed project. Now, I'm already designing a new one, but I'm not going to say anything more than that. I will leave it as a spoiler there. So anyway, I am stamping with my permanent ink. This is going to make sure that no matter what I do on top of it, and if I use, for example, my rice paper glue, it's not going to move, to smudge or smear. Also notice that I started doing the stamping with a stamping block, but I don't want to have a perfect result. So most of the time I like to do that stamping with my fingers. It gives me more control or exactly where I want to stamp. And notice I don't end up with big blocks of text rather than more of a little bit of stamping here and there, which looks more organic for the background. Now another thing that I like to do is to combine circles with text, and that's exactly what I'm doing here. Again, this is a circle stamp from one of my oldest background stamp sets. And let's move on to the next step, which is to do some stenciling. Now for the stenciling today I'm using this stencil with the gears, which is from the Gear Up collection, and I'm going to use some ancient pink Glamour paste. I love the Glamour paste because it has that shine. On it actually contains mica. I don't know if you can tell through the camera, but it is just gorgeous when it dries, and it comes in so many different colors. So I'm just going to apply in a few areas through the stencil. And I like that in this stencil you get bigger and smaller gears, so you can pick whichever area you want to transfer. I'm just going to rotate it and try to find a more delicate gear. You can see there is a big one that you can use if you like, but I want to stay mainly on the edges. So I'm going to leave that aside to dry, and in the meantime I can do all the fuzzy cutting that I need for my focal point. So make your life easy. You don't have to cut out every little detail that picks out of that house composition. So with the magic of video editing, here is the bunch of houses already cut out. And of course you can be very precise and cut around all those gears. I'm not going to bother at all. They are going to match with the background, so I don't really care. For the inside, those blank spaces, you can just cut out through the design, remove the blank space, and then you will put everything together when you stick it down. So I'm going to place this down, and I'm using again my rice paper glue to make sure that everything is nicely attached. Some of the stenciling is going to be covered up just because I never think ahead. I don't know how big the focal point is going to be. I just play and enjoy everything layer after layer. And if something gets covered up, I don't care. Trust me, it's still there. It's just underneath and you cannot see it. And by the way, here are some more pattern papers where you can see other bunch of houses that you can cut out as your focal points, all from the same collection. And just forget about those bright colors on the side. These are the prototypes, that's why they look like that. Anyway, I will move on. I have covered up everything with matte medium, so they are nice and sealed. And now everything is completely dry. And now I will show you something. Look at this, it's not straight. Do I care about it? No. Do you? Who knows? But I'm going to show you something that I like to do. Just so that things don't trigger you as much, I'm just going to stick something on top, at the bottom. This is going to kind of make it look as if I knew what I was doing from the beginning and it was intentional. I always say that my pages aren't perfect. Just because I show them doesn't mean that everything is perfectly aligned or perfectly done. This is just the way that I am having fun, and if I do have fun, then this page has accomplished its purpose. And now the next step is to do the doodling, the highlighting, the shading. I like to use my Pitt brush markers, and I did that for all the pages here. I am not going to overdo it, however, in this page. I think that the contrast is there already, and I don't want to overwhelm the page with color, so I will just add a few touches here and there just to help those buildings look more dimensional, let's say, where you can tell which one is at the front and which one is at the back. So for the roofs, I'm going to add a little bit of red, but I don't want again the roofs to be super bright. So I'm just touching the tip of the marker in some areas here and there. And then I will switch to this Indian red color. This is perfect for adding those brown shadows that have a touch of red in them. I'm going to add that at the bottom. And then remember that those brushes do have dual tips, so there is a fine tip on one side, which I'm going to use for that pipe. This way I apply just a touch and it's easy for me to smudge it. Again, remember, for this technique to work, you need to make sure that the background is non-porous. So I have covered up everything with my rice paper glue, and I also made sure that because before I touched the page with the markers, the glue was completely dry. Now for the houses, I'm adding a touch of grey on the sides. And then I grabbed my fine black marker and I'm going to add some sketchy lines along the outline of my buildings. So I'm not trying to outline everything perfectly, as I always say, just some sketchy lines here and there. I'm not going to outline all the windows, all the doors, things like that, just where I feel like I want to darken up some areas so that one element stands against another more. And then I'm using my white gel pen and I'm adding some highlights on the roofs, along the side of the houses, on some windows, just completely randomly, without trying to draw the perfect line from one side to another. If you want, you can use one of the stamps that you used for the background on top of those houses. I'm not going to overdo it, just a couple here and there is all I need. And then I had an afterthought. This is where I decided to add some hearts as smoke that is coming out of the chimneys. So I wanted to cut out hearts using the dies that I have from a red colored pattern paper that matches the color of the rooftops. That's why I cut out that piece there. I'm going to run those dies through my die cutting machine and I will end up with 3 hearts, which I'm going to stick down again and do the same techniques as I did for the houses. So stick them down with my rice paper glue and then outline them with my thin black marker and add some highlights with the white gel pen. I didn't use the red marker at all. These are such small areas, you don't really need to do it. So about the quote, as I was creating the page, I thought I would go with home is where your heart is. That's why I added those hearts coming out of the chimney. However, I saw this quote on my booklet, on my sticker booklet, and I thought this is perfect for every introvert out there. So I went with I lied about being the outdoors type. I think it is hilarious since we do have all those houses. Now, this is where I get my quotes. It is a very, very old booklet. I have it for years and years. I mean, more than 5, 6, I don't know how many years. And there are different versions of it. The one that I'm using today is the occasions, but I also use the other versions as well. I will link them down below if I can find them because they are super old. Final step, I'm adding some splatters. Here I'm adding some very fine black splatters. I just diluted acrylic paint with water to do that. And finally the white splatters, making sure that I am not going to overdo it because I don't want this to look like snow. And that was the project for today. I hope that you had fun, that you got inspired. Here are some close-up photos where you can see all the details better. Just like always, you will find the full list of all the supplies that I used down below in the description. Don't forget to like and comment, and thank you all so much for joining me.